I think what is really important for people to understand about the far right is that it is a global movement that is fueled with dark money. And dark money is simply a term we use in the US to describe money that is not traceable to its source. And unfortunately, in the US, there are many ways by which this happens. But because capitalism is now global, money flows globally, and depending on the regulations of where it comes from, you may not be able to trace it. And there are very large players involved. If we look at the example of Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon was part of a company called Cambridge Analytica, which famously was involved in fomenting the referendum for Brexit. Cambridge Analytica was also instrumental in the Trump campaign. Cambridge Analytica was basically amassing data via Facebook and using the data on Facebook users to target advertising at them, advertising that may not itself be traced back to its source. So that's just one example. And it's so interesting, isn't it, that at the Republican National Convention, who did we find there? Nigel Farage, the chairman of the UKIP adventure, the pro-Brexit campaign. We also found Geert Wilders, the Dutch far-right player, and others from Europe who were at the Republican National Convention in 2016, at which Donald Trump received the nomination. The same money that was fueling Bannon's enterprise was also fueling some of these other figures. One guy involved, and this is a guy named Robert Mercer, a billionaire, owns a hedge fund, or was one of the founders of a hedge fund. And he basically funded just about any Bannon project that came along for many, many years. But Steve Bannon was not born of Donald Trump. Steve Bannon is a creature of the US right. He made his mark during the Tea Party movement. And Tea Party movement in the US was a reaction, a backlash, if you will, to the election of the first African-American president in the United States, Barack Obama. And people invoked the name Tea Party because they fancied themselves to be the legacy of the Boston Tea Party, when colonists in the United States threw all of the tea from Britain, threw it over the board of a ship that was docked in Boston Harbor. It was all very patriotic, of course. They liked to believe that it was about protecting the Constitution, or so that's what the media were told. But really, it was still the same collection of resentments that fueled the Tea Party that we find fueling the right wing today. And it goes very far back in the US. I mean, depending how far back you want to take it, but let's take it back to, say, the 1970s, when the religious right was founded. What we see today in terms of white nationalism, much of that ideology is in the theology that is espoused by Protestant evangelicals who are on the right in the United States. They have control of the party apparatus of the Republican Party. They turn out the voters for the Republican Party. And you know, that's how we got to a Steve Bannon, how we got to a Donald Trump. They would like you to believe that it's all, their movements began with moralistic principles, but indeed it was really born of the segregationist movement. It's born of racial resentment and fear of change and changing roles in society.